Our featured speaker today is a spiritual practitioner. She's also an actress with 44 acting credits on IMDb, which is the professional resource for entertainment professionals. She also has 29 years of corporate experience in the technical management and business categories of industry. And she has, in the process of having such a diverse and interesting career, faced and overcome many fears. She's today going to present to us the topic, Reframe and Redirect Fear to Spur Your Success. Would you please give a very warm welcome to Sonia Jackson.
Hello there, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. So we're talking about reframing and redirecting our fear to spur our success. So I want to lay down some basics, is that I know everybody on this call already is successful. Sometimes in one area, we're more successful than another area, and we'd like to transfer that over, or sometimes we just don't know why we're so successful in another area. So, or partly this conversation may just be because there's somebody that you're starting to see doing things that you want to help them go beyond where they are to something more, something greater in what they're doing. So it might be for you, it might be for somebody else. And if you have comments or other ideas, feel free to pop them in the chat. When I set up the slides, I won't be able to see the chat. So we'll just kind of move through things so that we can get through it and get to the questions if you have any questions about what we're talking about. So we're reframing our fear. We're redirecting our fear because fear is with us. There's nothing that we can do about not having fear, right? It's an emotion, even as if you're a Star Trek fan, the Vulcans try to get rid of their fear and get rid of all emotion, not just fear, but get rid of all emotion. But it's an emotion and we're human. So it's something that we have that we're going to always have. So we ignore them, we suppress them. Sometimes we mislabel them, we try and cover them up. But what do we need to do instead? And this comes from what I'm looking at for myself and what I've had to do. So what I've looked at is we have success, and it always seems to show up around the things we know how to do, as well as the things we love to do. So what makes it easy for us to do those things? We can sail through them. One of the things for me is acting. And one of the things for me is also comedy. People used to tell me when I did stand-up comedy, oh, that's so hard. I mean, I left the business world and the first thing I did was go out and do stand-up comedy. That's because I figured with all the executives I worked with, I had enough material. But they always talked about it's a difficult thing. But for me, it was never difficult because I had fun with it. And I just would say things because I had been doing it all my life with them. But the kind of fear, but what about the things that don't work out or they don't turn out the way we want them to turn out? And we're afraid that something isn't going to turn out that way that we wanted to. We create a plan, we put things together, but then we're working along the day and we take a misstep and we don't know how to get ourselves back on track. And we start doing things that we don't even realize we're doing. So most of us at the moment, maybe at home on our Zoom, and we're working from home. How many of you, just think about it, how many of you get up and go to the refrigerator during the day while you're working on Zoom? And I know I do. I get up, I go to the refrigerator, and then I look in there and I see there's nothing I want to eat. And I go back to my desk and I work. And then I find like 3 hours later, I've gone back to the refrigerator 3 or 4 times, maybe even 5. And nothing in my refrigerator has changed. So I already know what's in it. Why do I keep stopping and getting up and going there? Sometimes it's because there's something that I'm missing, something that I'm uneasy about, something that I'm concerned about. So it's one of those things where we want to be aware of our actions and activities. And what I And what I realized is, for me, things came up for me as fear when I decided to go beyond where I was, beyond where I was. So the fear would show up. And sometimes it would be empty things, but other times there was something going on, something that was happening that I wasn't sure about. So when I want to figure something out, it helps me to define it. So I went to define what fear was. And Google, when I Googled it, fear, because that's where we want to go. We always go to find something out. It defined fear as an unpleasant emotion caused by the belief that someone or something is dangerous, likely to cause pain, or a threat. Now, a lot of the stuff that we're doing, we don't think of it as dangerous, or we don't think of it as something that's going to cause us pain or even a threat, but it actually is, because what I have found also is that fear is more than just being afraid. Can you read the words that are in there? Fear. There has different levels. Fear is unease, it's despair. It gives us the jitters. We're we have dread about something, we're upset about something, or we're just uneasy, or we're suspenseful, or we're frightened, or maybe we're just concerned, or we're feeling a little bit of angst. Have you ever thought of the fact that being timid is a level of fear? It doesn't seem like it might be, but it's a different level of fear. It's a different, it is fear, but it's not as big as terror. It's not as big as don't go in the basement, where we're watching the movie and the person always goes in the basement, and then something dreadful happens to them. And we know, don't do that. But of course, we also get excited about it's happening to that person. So these are different levels of fear: panic, alarm, fright, agitation. Sometimes it's just a matter of feeling in the funk, or we're unrestful, or nervousness. Those are different levels of fear. And sometimes if we don't identify it, it can be something that can also cause make us think that keep pushing ahead, keep trying for this, keep trying to make something happen. But if we stop and look at the fear and make a decision about it, and that's what came up for me when I started to realize why I was having fear, or what I was doing was because I was fearful. I decided that I needed to find out what I needed to do about it, and because fear is always there, what I wanted to do was fear less. I wanted to be able to work through whatever it is that I needed to work through, get through it, handle it with ease and grace, and with joy, because there's no point in doing anything if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying what you're doing. I was listening to Cahill, I think it is, Sullivan in San Francisco. And I don't know about you, but he was so animated in his conversation. And he's got this picture of himself with his head tilted and smiling, which is just going to be fun. And so it's about being able to be in joy about what you're doing as well. So I wanted to be able to fear less about what was going on and what I was doing. So I came up with my own version of my ABCs about being able to fear less. And the first one, on A, is to accept that I'm in fear at that moment, whatever level it is. Maybe I'm worried, I'm in doubt, or I'm just upset about something, or and if I can just accept first off that, okay, I'm in worry, I'm in doubt. If I can just acknowledge it, then I can start to look at it. I can start to get a handle on what I need to do. It was Albert Einstein that said, you know, you can't solve the problem at the level of the problem. And when all we can see is the problem, that's when we're in fear. So once we start to identify what it is, then we can start to go beyond that. And that comes with asking for help, asking for what we need to know, asking for any additional thing or information. So I want to challenge you. I want to ask you this. Do you know the 9-dot puzzle? Are you familiar with the 9-dot puzzle? And for this, I'm just going to stop the share right quick for a second. If you're familiar with the 9-dot puzzle, just wave your hand. Okay. All right. So for those of you who are not, we'll go back and we'll take a look at that right quick. So the 9-dot puzzle is, so quickly just draw it on your own, draw it on a piece of paper in front of you, or just with your finger across the screen. See, without lifting your finger, just put your finger down or on a piece of paper with a pencil. Do not lift your pencil. Make 4 lines, straight lines, and go through every dot there. It's 4 lines and go through every dot there.
Without picking your finger up.
Without picking your finger up or your pencil, straight lines. Are you ready for the answer? Because we don't want, you know, it's not like you have to figure this out. Yeah. So here it is. Okay, so here's the answer. Now, and those of you who knew the answer already, you probably remember that maybe the first time you did it, you didn't quite even recognize that you should go beyond the 9 square, beyond the square. What we see in front of us is the square of the 9 dots. And we don't think going past the 9 dots to be able to touch the others, so that you go up and outside of the perceived box, outside of the perceived box again, and then back in. In order to be able to touch them all, you cannot just touch the dots themselves. You have to go beyond what the dots are. And that's what I started to learn for myself about what it is. And we don't ask. We didn't ask any questions. We didn't ask anybody who knew the answer. That's because we were trained as children to figure it out on our own. We were trained to find out the answers on our own. We were trained to don't look on that person's paper. And when we went to ask the teacher, we asked a question, but we didn't say, well, what's the answer? And they would say, have you figured it out yet? And, you know, those kinds of things. So we want to be able to know. We don't have to wait. We don't have to know everything before we're ready to go. We can ask, we can look it up, we can find out more information. So once I started to ask those kinds of things, I realized then I needed to be able to accept what I was hearing, be able to ask for the help. I had to be willing to let go. So B was for me to be willing to let go, to be honest with myself, be willing to not know the answers to what I needed, and to be willing to go beyond where I was to figure out how I was going to go beyond where I was. And sometimes that figuring it out required that I ask somebody else's help. I find a coach, or I look to see who else might be able to give me more information. That's how I started to figure things out for myself. And once we start to, the big one for me was to be honest with myself. I don't know the answers to this. I don't know how to get this done. I don't know who to talk to about that. And then be willing to talk to everybody I could trust and could know that they would also have my interests at heart, to be able to ask them for help. It was, the next step was the challenge. And the challenge is more about being able to look at what I'm doing. In my case, this last year, I spent a year and a half producing an event called Breastable. And there were I've produced a number of events, but they weren't on the scale that I was producing this event. And when I would come up with a challenge, there was a part of me that kept saying, you're supposed to know how to do this, and I don't know how to do this. So when it was a problem, it was more difficult for me to move forward, to get things done, to find out answers. So what I did was I turned the problem into a challenge. Because if it's a challenge, then I know that there are people who are rooting for me. And I go back to those people and maybe ask for help, maybe look for what I need to do. I need to find my confidence to be able to go beyond, again, the B's, to go beyond where I was, and to find out how to be comfortable with where I was, because that was the big thing that I found out for me. I needed to be comfortable because I didn't know where I was or how to move past that particular appearance of a blockage or something. I needed to be able to move past it. I needed to be able to, I was uncomfortable with where I was. And have you ever been uncomfortable with what you're doing? You don't necessarily know the next step. You don't necessarily know how to make that leap to the next level, or to move to a position where someone's going to just give you that information. So it was a sense of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And when I found that I would allow myself to be all right with being uncomfortable, more answers would come. So is that not true for most of us? For when we're tied up with the problem, we can't see the answers. When we change how we're thinking about something, that makes the problem more easy to handle. We end up with the thoughts about, how do we want to be able to learn? How do we want to release the concerns that we may have? This is the way to start to be comfortable, because if we're moving beyond where we've been, we're not familiar with where we want to go. We're not familiar with it. So by the nature of the fact that we've challenged ourselves to move to this higher level, to move to this greater opportunity, we've challenged ourselves to do that. We then already know from the beginning there's going to be things that we're going to have to learn along the way to be able to get there, and to allow ourselves the ability to do that and be comfortable with wherever it is we are as we move into the next level, next stage. So that brought me to D. And that was to be able to discern what I needed to do, or just come up with a discernment from all the various options that would show up. Who should I ask? How should I ask them? What kind of assistance did I need? Did I need to go beyond? And where am I going to go? How am I going to make that move? And to then just decide that I'm going to take that next action, whatever it is. Because sometimes we won't take an action because We're so caught up in whatever questions are coming up for us. Well, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I ask the wrong person? Or what if I put out this money and I don't get a return on it? What if? And all of the things that we're talking about is reframing, is redirecting what we think the fear has been at the beginning, and to shift that fear into something else. So that's what we're doing. We're taking a moment to direct our attention and our actions to what it is that we want. And as we do that, we take our focus off of the problem, and more ideas will show up around what it is that we want. So we keep our positive thoughts, our positive attitudes, our positive actions in front of us. And keep in mind what we're working towards. My friend told me once, Tina said, passion projects have a life of their own. And if we're lucky, a project chooses us because it trusts us that we will be a ride or die champions of that project. So whatever it is that we've decided that we want to do, it is not only worth our efforts, it is important that we take what we're here to offer to the world and offer. So in doing that, what happens for me, what I see is the E of everything. We enlighten our ego to evolve, because what fear gives us an opportunity to do is to evolve to a greater power, to a greater understanding of who it is that we are, to a greater level of who we are. And so as we acknowledge those things, as we acknowledge the things that we've come through, as we acknowledge we have fear, we can let go of the fear. We want to be who we truly are, which is the higher self of us. And Randy put in my bio, talked about my spirituality. And for me, that's one of the biggest things, because I believe that there is a higher power, a greater power than what my human self is. And that's where I come from. That's where we all come from. And as we have been birthed, that power lives in us. It moves through us. So that same power that created the heavens and the earth, that created all that lies in, that keeps this earth on its orbit, and the sun in the sky, and our planets, and the proximity that works for the universe, for our universe, anything that has that power has the power to assist me in everything that I'm doing during the day. Whether it's giving a presentation, whether it's being able to talk about what I believe in, or what I like, or what I want, or being able to put out the ideas that I have, the stories that I love to tell as a writer and an actress. I'm a storyteller. And so I love to tell the stories. And in order to tell the stories, I have to be able to be in a position where I can tell them in a way that works for me, works for the audience, however it is that I'm putting myself out there at that time. And I think that's what we're all doing. We're putting ourselves out there. So in essence, if we take what we are looking at in our actions and activities, then we're just really taking a moment to know who we truly are, and open ourselves to a higher power that is within us, and tap into that energy that is within us. Tap into that higher intuitive knowingness, because there is a knowingness that gave you the divine idea to do the actions, do everything that we're doing, whether you're in HR, whether you're an EMT, whether you're a business coach. There's moments when you're talking to your clients or talking to someone, and there's a knowingness that you have that what they're saying is accurate, or what they're saying isn't the accurate truth about who they are, and you have a different picture of them, you have a different idea, and you pass that information on. We're here. There's an intuitive knowingness within you that you can absolutely tap into through these steps, because you're really first turning to yourself, to the knowingness of what you're available here, what you can do, what you're available to do, and what will serve you and your highest good. So I just want to take a moment and just close your eyes for a second and feel. Take a deep breath and let it out. And feel into that power within you. There's a guide within you, your higher self, your perfect individual within you, that person within you that knows you, your higher spirit within you. You know, they talk about someone who, where do you want to be in 5 years? And there's something within you that knows where you want to be. There's someone within you that divinely can guide you to that place. Tap into that individual within you and see them stand up and looking you in the eye. There's something they know that they want to tell you. Can you listen to it? Can you hear it? Now take a moment and to sense and feel them hugging you, wrapping their arms around you. And as they do that, they're returning to that place within you, within your heart, within your mind, that is always there. Whether they told you something now in this moment or not, or they're going to tell you something later on, or then if you're into your own meditations on a regular basis, or just when you're in a quiet state, not thinking about anything, washing dishes or making your bed, when you hear that information, know that you're guided by a power within you. So I just want to take a quick moment and give you a quick prayer that is in this moment, recognizing each individual here within the sound of my voice, that there is a power that is greater than all of us, that lives within each of us, that we tap into, and that we hear and know and sense and understand that which is good for us individually. We're open and available to it. We're allowing ourselves to be guided by it. And we are open to the knowingness that we are successful in everything that we do because we are guided by that which serves our highest and greatest good. And as we take a time in this moment to recognize this truth, to understand it, and to allow ourselves to be open and available to more good, more peace, more harmony, more wisdom, more abundance, more understanding, more wisdom, more divine guidance, we allow that to move us forward in all that we do. And we're grateful for this truth. We're grateful for this knowingness. We give thanks for it, and we just let it be. Amen, amen. So thank you for taking the time to allow me to share my thoughts and ideas with you. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you so much, Sonia, for your presentation. That was incredible. I've actually not ever heard a presentation that sort of slices and dices the issue of fear in such with such specificity as you have. And I was very impressed because for me, it's kind of like either like fear or courage or feel the fear and do it anyway, kind of more simplistic approaches, but you've really done a phenomenal job of helping us to understand how to address fear better. So I commend you greatly for that. And I want to also mention that the background I have behind me now has reverted to a doubling up of a certificate of appreciation that we have for you, Sonia.
Thank you.
And hey, you're welcome. And we also have a printed version, which we'll get to you if you'll provide us with a way to do that. Now, okay, so Sonia asked for questions and comments, so perhaps we can do this in an orderly way, because sometimes if there are people on a second or a third screen, we don't see them raising their physical hand, and so then they feel offended because we don't call upon them. So perhaps you could use your digital hand, which is in the reactions part of the navigation area in the lower part of your screen. Mind you, if you're on an iPhone or an Android or an iPad, I'm afraid I don't know where the controls are, but wherever the reactions area is, if you click on that, at some point you can see that there's a raise hand function. So, okay, I see Hugh Adamson has a question or comment. Go ahead, Hugh.
Hi, Sonia. I just wanted to thank you for that presentation. I've always thought that fear was a liar, and that but I've had challenges overcoming that. And this kind of presentation that you're doing is extremely helpful. So I just, again, thank you for all that you've done.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for your comment, Hugh, and if you have anything further, I can entertain that, but if you're finished, then I'll move on to Holly.
I'm done. Thanks so much.
Hey, you're welcome. Holly, have you got a question or comment for Sonia?
I have both. I really appreciate this visceral exercise that we did to kind of see the other person and connecting with that inner person. Do you have a technique to offer me when I'm in it and my mind has been hijacked and I'm in doubt and fear? It seems like I lose all presence of mind to activate these tools that are available to me. And thank you. That's my question.
Do you know when you're in doubt and in worry?
Usually after I'm paying the price for it, which means that my body's starting to have a reaction. Those negative thoughts are coming in. That critic has taken over and is telling me things I can't even repeat aloud in public.
Okay, so the way that it works for me is that I've found, and when I've worked with my clients, it seems to be the way to do it, is to, and I know this may sound a little woo-woo, but is to first set an intention, and you're already there because you have an intention to find out when you're in doubt and worry. So what I have found, there's an order to things. It used to be someone would say to me, you're this, this, and I'd go, no, I'm not, no, I'm not. And then somebody would say, you're this, this, and this. And I'm going, no, I'm not. And then later on I go, am I? And then somebody would say, you're this, this, and this. And I'm going, oh, I am. So there was a stage for me to recognize it for me. And it's the same with doubt and fear and worry. If you set an intention to be aware of those things, you will start to become aware of them. And it may be that you'll start to become aware of them after the fact, but as you start to acknowledge it and acknowledge it and acknowledge them, oh, I was worried about that. Oh, I was concerned. Oh, I couldn't really hear anything. It'll happen faster and faster to the point where you're in the middle of it going, oh, I'm in doubt and fear. Let me take a breath. Let me see how I can shift that. What is it? What am I worried about? What am I? And then, okay, do I need to be worried about that? Look to see the action that you can take beyond that in the questions and things that we were talking about. Does that help?
I really appreciate it, because what I'm taking away is that just knowing that I have doubt and fear, and it's like exercising. The first day I go out and exercise, my body's going to be sore the next day. So the more that I practice and exercise, the more readily available I'm going to be able to move myself back into the state of consciousness that is productive and giving me what I need. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Well, thank you for your question and comment, Holly. And thanks also for joining our event today. Thanks for your response, Sonia. And I see now that Melanie has a question or comment. Go ahead, Melanie.
Thank you. So I have a comment and a couple of questions, but I don't want to take too much of your time as well, or of any other questions. But I just want to say thank you so much for touching on a universal experience that we can relate to on a daily basis or on a chronic level as well. It really helps personalize that as well. But I want to ask, so where would you draw the line between something that you deal with and try and overcome on like a daily basis or on that acute experience level versus when you go back to the drawing board and say, this is something that you just need to pivot your life, if that makes sense?
Say it one more time. Say the question itself one more time.
Yeah, so the question is, so with fear, where would you draw the line between experiences that you want to deal with and overcome, or experiences where you say, let's go back to the drawing board and like rethink dealing with these experiences?
Okay, so the fear itself will, when you ask the questions to the fear, when you ask the question to yourself and it keep expanding it, it will tell you which one. So part of it is it's a fear, and you have, it's like, so in doing the project that I was doing early, where I talked about Breastival, I originally planned to put that project up last year in October of 2021. And in March of 2021, I was talking to somebody and I was having all this concern, and I was anxious and having anxiety. It was not, and as I talked about it with them, they had a conversation with me about, well, what's your purpose and all of that, and the good side of what I wanted to do, which brought me back to that. But in April, I still had the same anxiety going on. So I had to realize that it wasn't about my purpose. I knew my purpose. I knew why I was doing this. I wanted to help women. I wanted women's voices to come out. I wanted people to be aware of who we truly are, that whole thing. The problem was me producing the event for October not being enough time. So when I really sat down with myself and sat down with what exactly is the fear, then the truth came up that it wasn't about, I wasn't fearful about doing the event. I was recognizing, I was fearful about not having a time to do it well. So then what the fear told me was I needed to change the date. So the fear told me, go back to the drawing board and do a different, and come up with a different time or date, or it told me to do something else. I had a situation with a car that I was getting fixed. And as I walked up to the dealer, to the repair off building, my whole body was going, no, don't go there. Don't go. And I didn't listen. And I went, and I thought, oh, maybe I just need to take more time and understand this person better, or get more information. But when I got my car back, I went, oh, that's what they were telling me. He didn't know what he was doing. So I listened to my intuition with more clarity now.
That definitely helps, using fear as that tool for understanding, what's working, what's not. That's really helpful as well. And then my second question, actually, I was just curious as to if there was, in transitioning and pivoting your career, is that, did you have a specific story on that, or how did you come up with?
I do. I was working in aerospace in human resources, by the way. And I won't get into the whole story because it's too much information, too long. But it was about recognizing that the difference I was trying to make wasn't going to be able to happen in the way I was doing it in the company that I was in. And I had a different way of doing it that I wanted to track. And so I don't pivot because I was a dancer. I pirouette. So I wanted, and which means to me to put joy and dance movement into the shift, into the change. It has to, a pivot sometimes is, okay, don't do that, do this. And for me, a pirouette is more like, I'm not going to go over there. I'm going to turn and go over here. Yeah. So does that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
And you can feel free to contact me for if you have anything else that you want to ask.
Thank you.
Well, thanks so much for your questions and comments, Melanie, and your answer, Sonia. And next up, I see Jude Dola. You have a question or comment or both.
Yes, I have a comment. Thank you for enlightening us with the question of fear. As you mentioned, fear is always present. And when you said that, I'm thinking, if we don't have any fear, we are not alive. Because fear keeps us alive, actually. Fear is a good thing sometimes. I think fear is good and bad. If we were not fearful at all, we would walk off a building and then find out that we should have been afraid of doing that. And like everything, like every coin has two sides. We want to know why we're afraid, and sometimes we say thank you. That prevented me from doing something wrong, saying something wrong, or whatever it is, make a mistake. Thanks for the lesson today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for your comment, Jude. And I see also we have Joseph from Algeria. What are your questions or comments?
Hello there, Sonia. It was nice to listen to you talking about all those interesting aspects of fear. My question, my comment and question, it's about your acting career. From my end, I don't know anything about acting, but from what I understand, it's the most hard thing you're ever gonna do. You are literally in every movie set trying to force yourself to be someone else, and and God, we barely you manage to be ourselves 99% of the times. And from what I understand, that the movie industry, it's quite harsh, and it's really hard to climb the top and the top, and there's a power dynamic that always trying to push you to the bottom. So what's your advices or tips for someone willing to try to be an actor?
Okay, so the short answer is to be who you are, whether it's actor or accountant or lawyer or nurse or whatever it is, to be who you are. So as an actor, who I am is a creative expression, and I do it through acting. A nurse does it, is creative expression through nursing. So why do you like to act is one of the first questions. If I like to act, then I enjoy doing that. And on the set, I'm not forcing someone. Ron put in the chat, no one should need force themselves to be something they're not. So as an actor, I'm not forcing myself. I'm having a good time on set. And if the industry around me is forcing me to do something in a way that I don't want to do, I have the choice of not doing it. And I have the choice of doing my own projects. I have a choice. So for me, it's more about allowing yourself to be who you are all the time, and be who you are and continue to strive to be the highest that you are, no matter what your surroundings are. And that I do it with grace and ease is always my goal. And so I'm not forced to do something, because I could take the role or not take the role. I was given a script and my agent said, And I said, no, I don't want to do that one. And she kind of sent me a note back. Okay, tell me why. And I sent her a note back that says, I don't mind the occult information, but I draw a line at having a script where they intentionally harm children, harm and mutilate children, which was in the script. I don't do that. So I didn't do it. And she said, oh my God, no. So she sent them that note saying back she won't do this. So I'm still me. I'm still an actor. And so, not that I'm a nun, but I've gotten other roles since then that are for nuns. So that I can do, that kind of a thing. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much. When I said force yourself to be someone you're not, I'm talking about being another character, and I'm not talking about abandon your identity or something like that. So that's what I meant. Yeah.
And as a character, there are certain aspects that we all are, like we have fear and we have love. So we learn how to express those kinds of characters or that character or those aspects of that character. So it's actually fun. It's fun to do.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your questions and for your answer, Joseph and Sonia. And I see now that Robin, you have a question or comment. Go ahead.
Well, my comment is this, when I'm trying to be a character, I find out where the character is, and then I become that character. This is not necessarily me, because I don't speak like this in normal life. But since I'm an actor, I can speak any ways I want. And then I'll have to find out, how would the character react in this situation? And, and that part, we're all actors. We're acting the role that we've set up for ourselves, and the thing about life is you should choose the role that you want to play in your own life. If you can't choose the role that you want to play, if you're only playing what everyone else chooses for you, then it's not your life.
Interesting.
So that is my comment, if you get my meaning.
Clear.
Thank you for your in character and out of character comments there, Robin. So
and now unfortunately I've got to go because I have a few things I've got to get done. So thank you very much and see you next time.
You are so
Thanks,
welcome.
Robin.
Glad
Appreciate you
could
dropping
join
on.
us, Robin, and all the best. Hope you'll join us again.
And Dr. Pat makes a great point. It's the mindset that matters, wherever and whatever we're doing, that it's a mindset.
And we are running rather later than we normally would, and that's probably my fault because I didn't realize breakout rooms weren't part of the menu at the bottom. So we did the introductions all the way around instead of just a handful each in separate rooms. So nonetheless, I think we should probably wrap this up. I guess we all have to return to our real lives, whether we have fear or not. So thank you so much for being our featured speaker today, Sonia. I don't know a lot of actors and actresses, but of all the ones that I've met, you probably are the most centered and, let's say, wise of the bunch. So it's been a real honor to hear your presentation and to get to know you better. And it's been a pleasure to work with you in the process of promoting this event today. So thank you all for attending today. By the way, Ron, have you got any closing comments?
I just want to thank you all for coming on today. It's been a real treat for me. I've often said that I probably have learned more from this than maybe you have because I learned so much from you. And we look forward to you dropping by in a couple of weeks when we do this again. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on. And our speaker, thank you very much, Sonia, for dropping on and sharing and imparting some of your wisdom with us. I think we're all better people because of it. Let's wrap her up.
And we did have our speaker for the next event on August 4th in our event today, but she joined late. She had told me ahead of time because she had an appointment that was preset, and it was preset because she just stepped in on short notice for somebody else who canceled on short notice. So our next speaker will be Alyssa Gurman, who is a management consultant and also a freelance journalist. She's got a PhD in English, which means I'll have to defer to her in terms of any mispronunciations and all this kind of stuff, all that rot, as they say. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to hearing her presentation. Thanks once again, Sonia, for being our presenter today. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. And I hope you all have a great 2 weeks. And if it's going to be more than 2 weeks before we see each other again, then we'll see you whenever we see you. But we do hope to provide you with content that'll be worth taking in. All the best, everybody. Have a good day.